Hey folks, I was tossing out old things from my medicine cabinet, came across this Gaviscon, and I was like, what's that doing there? And I remembered how easily I forget about my reflux. So I want to talk about reflux because reflux may be affecting your health more than you think. And it might be manifesting itself in certain ways that may make you think it's other disease states. And you might be treating those disease states not knowing it's your reflux. And then I want to cover behavioral changes that helped me with my reflux. But let me give you a little background about my experience. I think 15 years ago, I started getting a dry cough. And that got worse and worse, and my sinus was congested. So I would always tell my doctor, and he'd give me an inhaler, Flonase, and I would just say, look, I got allergies or something, you know? And I would always have this cough, and every year my throat would get more and more sensitive. So if I drank coffee, I would have a cough. I got nervous. If it was cool in Florida, you had to put on the heat, it would happen. If the air was dry, you know, if I was in an airplane, and it was very embarrassing, I'd be coughing all the time. This is before COVID, thank God. And people, if there's a flu going around, people would think I was sick, so I always had to have something to drink. So initially we thought it was asthma. I got an asthma test, and they said, hey, you're allergic to dust, and I got my floors, carpets taken out and everything. And, you know, I had to be honest with myself, it really wasn't working, but I was on all kind of steroid inhalers, and it just still wasn't working. And it got to the point where when I was working out, if I exerted myself or tried to run a half a mile, I'd be coughing. And every time I worked out, I would cough to where I had to stop, you know? So I was like, this asthma is really bad, dude. Well, I got a second opinion from another immunologist who actually tested my lungs. He did a retest, took my lung function test. You blow in is hard. Gave me albuterol, took it again, and he said, Rishi, your force expiration is the same before and after albuterol. He's like, your lungs have no problem. There's nothing wrong with your lungs. He said, your problem is here. He said, you don't have asthma, my friend. He said, I think you have something else. So he said, your problem's in your throat. So he said, I think you better get checked. It's probably reflux. So then I went to a GI doctor who scoped me through the nose, and oh my God, that was a task. But he said, yeah, you have reflux, and it's coming up through your esophagus, and it's eating away at your voice box just underneath, and that's causing a lot of your congestion and your cough. So yes, I was on PPIs, I was on all kinds of stuff for years, and the reflux just stayed there. I was just managing it. It was good to know I didn't have asthma, but this reflux was, you know, at that time I was gaining weight, so I knew that was part of it, you know. Now, of course, the GI doctor did tell me, Rishi, you need to give up coffee, chocolate, spicy food, alcohol, and this. You know, I was in the prime adult, young, professional time of my life. So I'm like, doc, that ain't happening. Just give me the pills. So that got worse. I started to get what's called a globular feeling in my throat, where it's like you feel like you're almost always nauseous. And that, you know, this came on very slowly, and I got normalized to it. So that's one of the things that you might have, and you think it's sinus related or asthma related, but it really is your reflux. Now, this cough I'm telling you about, I actually have it seldomly now, but I had it all the time. Like, if you were around me, I was coughing. And all the men in my family have it. So this reflux, we're very predisposed to it. Now, it could be our physiology, or it could be Caribbean diet, or maybe our attitude to food. So the second thing that reflux is, if it's now I never had any burning at this point in time. All I had was that cough. I would never have this burning sensation that people get. but it would have happened. I think it had kind of started to happen afterwards. But just having that globular feeling of something there making you nauseous is a red flag. It's you can look it up and it's one of the symptoms. But the other thing it does, in addition to, making you think you have a cough or this dry cough or allergies or asthma, is it'll cause you to snore and it affects your sleeping. And it is a risk factor for sleep apnea. So if you have unchecked reflux, and I'll get into the lifestyle factors, that you're refusing to change, not only is your breathing suffering and your activity level and ability to exercise vigorously is hampered, but also you're not sleeping. You're probably not getting a lot of deep wave sleep and probably not staying in REM a lot. And that's a bigger disruptor to your life. So did I treat it? Yes, but here are the things that I had to do. I'd say the very first thing that really worked was losing the weight. So at one point in time, I just went on a elimination diet, and I dropped 10 or 15 pounds really fast. And the weight in my neck and my throat, my neck, my chest went away really fast. And I think 60-70% of my reflux was resolved just by doing that. Now I went on a high protein, more meat diet. I dropped the carbohydrates significantly. So there was less food. There was also less carbohydrate. There was meat. And there was fat, but which is self-limiting. So that was one. The other thing was I owned a coffee business and I loved coffee, and I had to be honest with myself. I said, coffee is a risk factor. So some people are very sensitive to the reflux effects of coffee. So I would drink coffee all through the day. I started limiting my coffee to stop before 12, because after 12, it would stay in my system. I wouldn't sleep really well. And if I had it like 2, 3, 4 in the evening, I would get reflux. And I couldn't go to sleep. I would have like a sour stomach or something. So I limited myself to 2 espresso in the morning, and that was it. And when I restricted the coffee, that helped a lot. But the 2 things that helped really, in addition to weight loss, I would say underweight loss, the next 2 things was reducing nighttime meals, the size and the timing of it, and nighttime alcohol. So, I was out about, so having dinner with friends Wednesday, maybe Friday, Saturday, having drinks at night was not a problem for me. And when you have drinks, you're eating more. I will say that alcohol directly causes reflux, at least for me. Alcohol does relax the sphincter. That keeps your food in. So a moderate amount of alcohol hanging out is going to promote reflux. And alcohol does destroy your sleep as well. But I've had to say, if I reduce my drinking a lot, and I usually have 1 drink, maybe 2, once a week. And by moving that to earlier on in the day, which vis-a-vis moving my meals to my dinner early on in the day, going 6 out of the 7 days without an alcoholic drink really reduced my reflux. And it was very evident, because if I did go out with friends and I had a few glasses of wine at night, I would snore a lot that night and get reflux. Wine especially, because the sulfites, I think, make me get congested. So alcohol was definitely it, and then late night meals. I'd put late night meals under that. So if I had to list them as the interventions that had the highest effect on me reducing the symptoms of my reflux, I would say weight loss, elimination or very drastic reduction in alcohol intake and timing, and reduction in coffee. And the very last one was not eating too heavy too late. There are times I do have late dinners that are a little bit heavy. but the discomfort at night isn't as bad. You know, if I wake up and I feel heavy, I might have a Tums in the middle of the night. But that's something that you could fix easy because I have a treadmill at home. If you have a treadmill at home or you have the ability to just stay up a little while or just clean the house or do something. If I take a 15-minute walk on the treadmill, if I go and have dinner with friends, I don't feel it. I don't feel as heavy when I go to bed. So that's just a little chat about reflux for you to keep in the back of your head, because as we get older and we put on weight, reflux comes on. And just keep in mind it can manifest itself as a sinus infection or a cough, and it can also affect your sleep. It will, your sleep apnea and your snoring. And pay attention to your weight. Try to keep, this channel is all about health, so we're working to keep our weight down and stay exercising. But reduce or keep a handle on your alcohol and coffee intake. And also the type of meals, like late at night, if you have very rich, very fatty meals, those things take a while to digest. Heavy meats will take a little bit longer to digest. We all like to go out and have that late night steak dinner to celebrate something. Red meat will take a little more time to digest than, say, fish. So sometimes if you're having dinner, you might want to make a strategic decision if it's a late dinner option. Or, if you're going to get, a lot of times, say for a steak, I'll get the leaner cut and try to have an earlier dinner. So as of now, for my progress, I'm actually off. I was on PPIs and Zantac chronically. And when I travel, I had to have my reflux meds, my inhalers, all that stuff. All that is gone. It has been gone for some time. I have no inhalers, no proton pump inhibitors, no Prilosec, no Nexium, no Zantac, nothing. I don't need any of them. And I've been talking to you in these videos and I haven't coughed. So lifestyle behavioral interventions work for reflux. We're very dependent on medication, but it's a problem you're giving yourself by what you eat, how much you eat, your level of activity, and what your other intake, food intakes are, or beverage intake, alcohol and caffeine. So it is something that if you catch it, you can reverse it. And you are going to have to do some unpopular things, your GI doctor would tell you, but I'm not saying you eliminate these things. I don't like to demonize drugs. I'd say find a place for them that gives you what they can give you, but doesn't adversely affect your health. So, if you go a week without coffee and your reflux symptoms improve, then too much coffee is not good for you. 1 cup, or maybe the type of coffee. You have drip coffees that tend to draw and leach the coffee mass more. They have more acid. I actually just do espresso shots. So I actually have less of a dose of chlorogenic acids in the coffee. If I have a drink, I have 1 day a week that I drink. If I have no social engagement, I don't drink that week. If I know I'm going to drink, say go out for a cocktail, I have dinner first, and I'll have that drink earlier in the night, so it doesn't really keep me up and cause reflux of my food. So I'll have my dinner early. So even if I have a cocktail, there's no food in my stomach to come back up, so it doesn't really affect it. I do know, as I said, red wine is bad for me, but not like a craft cocktail or a light beer. So I reduce those. I always try to eat early. As the meals go down at night, I make them smaller. So live by this rule. Have breakfast like a king, lunch like a prince, and dinner like a pauper. And that's actually a very healthy way to approach your nutrition. And as you come down at the end of the day, you throttle down your calories. So your digestive system has less taxing at night, and you don't have much blood sugar to bring down for the next morning. So your fasted blood sugar in the morning is low. And, that actually will, you get your biggest meals in the morning when you're moving, you can digest them. And at night, it's a smaller, more nutrient-dense meals. I don't mean a small meal. You get your protein, get your complex carbs. You know, you'll need the carbs to go to sleep. Keep the fat really low. So that's my talk on reflux. And yeah, I don't have any symptoms. And you know, as a pharmacist, we can all tell you what's the newest drug for reflux. But I have to tell you, you don't have to be on any drugs. You got to do these lifestyle changes, and it takes a long time, but it pays dividends. And the older you get, the less money you want to spend at the pharmacy and at specialists. So I've eliminated the GI doctor, upper GI doctor, and I've removed that entire class of drugs from my drug need regimen. In fact, I don't really have a drug need regimen except for a low-dose statin that I take. So pay attention to reflux, my friends. And that's my PSA for today. Goodbye.